Secret government conspiracies. The phrase conjures up images of shadowy figures and wild plots. But what if I told you some of the most shocking government secrets are real, declassified history, the kind that makes you eye a pigeon and wonder if it's spying on you? The truth is often stranger, and way more bafflingly stupid, than fiction. Today we're pulling back the curtain on 4 of the most unbelievable government operations ever attempted. These stories prove that when governments try to be sneaky, they often achieve a level of incompetence that's almost impressive. Let's start with a CIA operation so misguided it's a miracle the world isn't a radioactive parking lot. This is the story of Operation Merlin, where the plan was to sabotage Iran's nuclear program by giving them a bomb blueprint, with a twist. Spoiler, it backfired spectacularly. The late 1990s, a time of global uncertainty, shifting alliances and high-stakes espionage. In the shadowy corridors of power, the world's most secretive agencies are locked in a silent arms race. At the heart of it all, the CIA is desperate to stop Iran's nuclear ambitions from becoming a reality. The stakes couldn't be higher. A nuclear-armed Iran would change the balance of power in the Middle East forever. Their solution? An audacious plan called Operation Merlin. The idea, hand over Russian nuclear blueprints to Iran, but with a twist. The blueprints are deliberately sabotaged, containing a fatal flaw. The hope is that Iran will waste years and millions of dollars chasing a dead end, all while thinking they're on the path to a bomb. The man chosen for this risky delivery is a defected Russian nuclear scientist. Let's call him Dmitry. He's got the technical know-how, the backstory, and most importantly the access. But there's a problem. Dmitry, a proud and meticulous scientist, spots the flaw in the blueprints almost immediately. To him the error is glaring, an insult to his expertise. Instead of following the CIA's instructions, Dmitry can't resist fixing the design. He painstakingly corrects the error, and even leaves a helpful note for the Iranians explaining how to avoid the trap. He delivers the now corrected blueprints, complete with his annotations, to the Iranian mission in Vienna, unknowingly handing them a shortcut to nuclear capability. Back at Langley, the CIA celebrates their supposed masterstroke, blissfully unaware that they've just handed Iran a working nuclear recipe on a silver platter. The Iranians, ever cautious, receive a package that's essentially a step-by-step nuclear bomb tutorial. They're suspicious, but the technical details are sound, thanks to Dmitry's help. Years later, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist James Risen uncovers the fiasco. His reporting reveals that Operation Merlin may have actually accelerated Iran's nuclear program, rather than sabotaging it. Operation Merlin becomes a textbook example of how intelligence operations can spiral from slick and sophisticated to outright slapstick, all because of one man's pride and a critical oversight. It's a sobering reminder that even the best-laid plans can be undone by human error, ego, and the unpredictable nature of real-world espionage. The CIA's Trojan horse, meant to be a clever act of sabotage, ended up as a gift-wrapped bomb manual, delivered straight to their adversary. Sometimes the only thing more dangerous than your enemy's cunning is your own side's incompetence and overconfidence. Operation Merlin deserves a spot in the Museum of Terrible Ideas, right next to New Coke, the Zune, and other infamous blunders of history. And if you think this story is wild, just wait until you hear how the CIA tried to control the very news you watched every night. Next up, Operation Mockingbird, where the truth gets even stranger. Because in the world of espionage, the truth isn't just stranger than fiction, it's often far more embarrassing. Let's dive in. Operation Mockingbird, one of the most audacious covert operations in American history. This was the era when the CIA blurred the line between journalism and propaganda, quietly embedding itself in the very heart of the news industry. During the Cold War, the agency believed the real battlefield was the human mind, and that controlling information was as powerful as any weapon. So they infiltrated the media, recruiting editors, reporters, and even publishers to serve their agenda. Hundreds of journalists, including those from major outlets, became CIA assets, sometimes knowingly, sometimes unwittingly. They would publish agency-written stories as their own, shaping the narrative for millions of Americans. The goal was clear: shape public opinion, promote U.S. interests abroad, and bury inconvenient truths that might threaten the status quo. The CIA even funded student groups and cultural organizations, using them as fronts to spread pro-American sentiment. These efforts created the illusion of grassroots anti-communism, making it seem as if the public was united against the Red Scare. For decades, the public had no idea their news was being ghostwritten by spies, their opinions carefully molded by unseen hands. In the 1970s, the Church Committee finally exposed the operation, pulling back the curtain on years of manipulation. Their investigation confirmed the CIA's deep systemic ties to the press, and the extent of the agency's influence shocked the nation. The fallout was massive. Public trust in both government and media was shattered, and Americans began to question everything they read or watched. The The CIA promised to stop, vowing to end its manipulation of the press. But the damage was done, and the scars of that betrayal lingered for generations. Operation Mockingbird left a legacy of distrust that still shapes how we view the media today. It's a chilling reminder: when the free press is weaponized by those in power, the very foundation of democracy is threatened. Objective truth becomes collateral damage, and the public is left to sift through the wreckage of manipulated facts. The next time a news story seems too perfectly aligned with government interests, remember Mockingbird, and ask who might be pulling the strings. Sometimes the real conspiracy is hiding in plain sight, woven into the very stories we trust. But if you think media manipulation is bad, just wait. Because next you'll hear about a plan to start a war by faking attacks on Americans. Enter Operation Northwoods. Buckle up. Operation Northwoods, perhaps the most unhinged plan ever proposed by the US military. 1. The Pentagon wants to invade Cuba but needs a pretext. Their solution? Fake terrorist attacks on American soil and blame Cuba. The plan included sinking refugee boats, blowing up a US ship, and even faking a civilian airliner attack using a drone. They'd traumatize families, manipulate the media, and manufacture outrage, all to justify war. The proposal landed on Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara's desk. He was horrified and rejected it outright, knowing President Kennedy would never approve. The plan was shelved, and the public never knew, until it was declassified decades later. Operation Northwoods is a terrifying glimpse into how far officials were willing to go for war. It's proof that sometimes the greatest threat isn't a foreign enemy, but the ideas hatched within your own government. Checks and balances saved the day, but just barely. The line between defense and deception was almost erased. If you think that's dark, wait until you hear how the US recruited Nazi scientists after World War II. Next, Operation Paperclip. History isn't just written by the victors, it's sometimes engineered by them. Let's take a look. Operation Paperclip, where the US traded justice for scientific supremacy, rewriting the rules of morality in the name of progress. As 1-2 ended, the US raced to recruit Nazi scientists despite their war crimes. The Cold War was looming, and America was desperate to outpace the Soviet Union in science and technology, no matter the ethical cost. President Truman ordered that no active Nazis be brought over, but officials ignored him, falsifying records to hide the scientists' pasts. Bureaucrats quietly scrubbed files, turning war criminals into valuable assets. Over 1,600 German scientists and their families were secretly relocated to America. They arrived not as prisoners, but as honored guests welcomed for their expertise. Wernher von Braun, who used slave labor for his rockets, became a national hero and architect of the Apollo program. His past was quietly buried as he helped shape America's future. The US landed on the moon thanks in part to men whose crimes were whitewashed for the sake of progress. Their scientific genius was celebrated, while their victims were forgotten. For decades, the truth was hidden. Only in the 1980s did the full story emerge, as journalists and historians uncovered the government's secret deals. Operation Paperclip is a stark example of ends justify the means thinking. It's a case study in how national security can override moral boundaries. It prioritized technological gain over justice for Nazi victims. The suffering of millions was overshadowed by the race for rockets and missiles. The message: if you're brilliant enough, your crimes can be erased. In the calculus of power, genius outweighed guilt. It's a moral compromise that still haunts American history. The shadows of these decisions linger in our collective conscience. The legacy is complicated. Scientific triumph built on a foundation of ethical failure. Every moon landing photo has a shadow that can't be erased. History isn't black and white, it's full of gray areas and uncomfortable truths. The story of Operation Paperclip is a reminder that progress often comes at a price. Operation Paperclip forces us to confront the cost of ambition. It asks us to question what we're willing to sacrifice for greatness. Sometimes the price of progress is paid in secrets and silence. The truth is often hidden behind locked doors and classified files. And sometimes the abyss stares back, with a German accent. One last thought: the pursuit of knowledge can illuminate the world, but it can also cast the longest shadows. Merlin, Mockingbird, Northwoods, Paperclip, 4 operations that reveal just how blurry the line is between security and scandal. These aren't just stories, they're warnings about unchecked power and the dark places it can lead. They show us that the deep state isn't always a cabal of masterminds, but sometimes a bureaucracy of blunders and moral shortcuts. Which of these conspiracies shocked you most? Let us know in the comments. If you found this fascinating and a little terrifying, subscribe and share. Until next time, stay curious and question everything. The truth is out there, sometimes it's just buried